Tonight, the cross flags will indicate the halfway point of the 2003 ASA season. And what an incredible 8 races it has been. 4 different winners, veterans, as well as a rookie. Some classic oval track scuffles where the bump and run has become the preferred way to pass. And most of all, there has been drama as short tracks and even shorter tempers have pushed the action to the breaking point. The latest ASA battleground is in the heart of the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis. And we have it all next, live on Speed. For the 24th time since 1974, the American Speed Association comes to Indianapolis Raceway Park today for the 9th round of the championship chase, the Club 200 presented by BF Goodrich. Let's go trackside for that special command.
On behalf of Winter International, makers of the club and the new Juice batteries, I want to thank you. Welcome to the Club 200. Just want to say to Connie, I love you. And now for the most exciting words in racing. Gentlemen, start your engines!
One of the biggest fields of the season comes to life as we are about to go racing here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Hi everybody and welcome. I'm Greg Creamer, joined as always by Jim Trado. Rob Albright will be with us down in the pits. And Jim, we talk about this track almost in revered terms. For a shorter oval, it's one of the best.
It's a unique racetrack as well. It's a bigger than a half-mile racetrack. The track is more corner than straightaway, so handling is at a premium, and the racing groove is not on the bottom in the corners. It's on the middle and upper portions of the racetrack. They really get hauling the mail around here, and in just a 200-lap race, Greg, they're not on the wheel for the last 50 laps. They're up on the wheel all 200 laps. 2 pit stops tonight, but they're chasing some serious cash, and there's some serious speeds here.
Over $200,000 on the line. Now, last weekend, there was a terrific accident. Gary St. Amant involved when his rookie teammate forced into him after St. Amant got into it a little bit. Everybody was worried. How's Gary doing? Well, as it turns out, not too bad. Unfortunately, he's not racing, but our good fortune is he's with us here in the booth tonight. And Gary, first question, how you doing?
Well, I'm a little bit beat up. That Mansfield wreck kind of hurt me a little bit. You know, the medicine shop, I've been actually shopping at the medicine shop quite a bit this week, so I'm really happy to be up here in the booth with you guys.
Well, it's great to have you with us, and the expertise that we're sure to get tonight is going to be wonderful. As we hit this halfway point of the season, focus more than ever, perhaps, starts to fall on the points championship. And for that, let's head down to our lone intrepid reporter at pit lane, Rob.
You know, there's not a driver on the planet who would admit to being a points racer as if it's something less than macho. But the truth of the matter is, ASA rewards consistency. That's how you score points. That's how you win a championship. Look at the top 4 in points. Veteran drivers all. The man third on the standings, Robbie Pyle, on the pole. Hasn't won a race yet, but he's very much in the hunt for the championship. Believe me, as we go to the second half of the season, every driver, every crew chief will count every point in every race, guys.
True enough, and as you look at that graphic behind Sawinski, it is very close, and that's points chase. A little bit more of that's going to be settled tonight. And if this race is anything like the 8 that have preceded it, we're in for a good one, so don't go anywhere. Speed Channel's live coverage of ASA Racing from Indianapolis Raceway Park is being brought to you by The Club. Don't risk it, club it. And by BF Goodrich Tires, the official tires of ASA. Field is underway at pace and parade laps. As you see, Robbie Pyle has moved to the outside, but he's the pole sitter as we go to our starting grid. Second of the year, Butch Miller, Glenn Allen Jr. That's an interesting story. For Mike Garvey, also a very interesting story, one involving some sponsorship.
Big news this week for the WJP race team of driver Mike Garvey. Brand new sponsorship from Janneke. Mike, is this going to help you on the track as much as off?
It sure is. I mean, this is huge for us. I mean, Janneke is the #1 cleaning company in the United States, and hopefully we just keep cleaning up the competition now.
Next couple of rows, 3 and 4, a couple of good rookie stories, a couple of great veterans. For Scott Lagasse, though, it's been an intermittent season in terms of his appearances, but somehow, every time they drop the green for qualifying, he's there.
Blank fenders mean limited resources and limited races. Scott Lagasse, you remain competitive. How do you do it?
We've got a great bunch of guys, all volunteers, and we work hard, real hard, but we had a good run tonight, a little slower than we thought we'd be, but I think we'll have a real good race car, so we're looking forward to it.
We move to rows 5 and 6, another good qualifying average from Todd Cleaver, Greg Stewart, and Toby Porter. But Danny Edwards Jr. remarkable story there is he's got a very unique program this season.
Danny Edwards has just 7 career ASA starts spread over 3 years, including a best here 2 years ago. He finished 5th. Danny, what's it going to take to get you here more often?
Well, actually, it's just going to take some corporate sponsorship to help us compete full-time. We'd like to run 2 full-time efforts for me and my brother. We take turns driving this car from week to week.
As we take a look at the rest of the grid, one of the stories here in the 7th row, Travis Kittleson qualifying quite a ways back of Reed Sorensen. Also want to mention Glenn Allen Jr., although he qualified 4th, had an accident. We'll talk more about that in just a minute now, but want to bring in Gary St. Amant. Gary, as we're getting ready to go green here, what do you look for in terms of somebody special or anything to unfold during this race?
I'm looking for a real good race from Brian Refner. You know, I think his program's really been turning around over the last few races, and you know, I know he knows this racetrack very well. He's run some Craftsman truck races here, and I really look for a good race from him tonight.
And we were talking a little bit about the in-car coverage we're going to have, and it is, as always, going to be absolutely stellar. We're going to be on board, as I mentioned, Travis Kittleson, starting back in the 14th spot. That Bob Steele Chevrolet machine, be watching him as he tries to move up through the pack just a little bit. Starting in 6th, our point leader, number 1, Kevin Sawinski. And you can see S&K Hand Tools, one of the sponsors on that car for Country Joe's Racing. And one of the great views we're going to have is this one, pretty unobstructed and a beautiful sunset unfolding from our pole qualifier, Robbie Pyle, in the Citgo Chevy, who has gone to the outside. And there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that. Let's go down to Rob, though, for last-minute thoughts. Rob?
Courting full-time sponsorship from Modern Office Methods, Glenn Allen Jr. turned a strong first qualifying lap today, 4th fastest. Unfortunately, he overtried on lap 2, crashed, will not start tonight. He did, however, stay to sign autographs. Give him credit for that. I'm standing in his pit stall. It should be full of equipment, people, and a flurry of activity. Instead, it is empty. What a sad ending for a great start to the night for Glenn Allen Jr. Guys.
Thanks, Rob. I think that's absolutely right. Just the way he ran that first lap and the way he hustled in for that second lap, Gary, I think he had a race car tonight.
There's no doubt about it. You know, Glenn's had a great race car at all the races this year, and you know, I know he likes this facility here at IRP, and I'm sure he's pretty sad he's not here in the starting lineup.
And he worked his way into 7th in the points, guys. It's really going to hurt him there as well.
Now, we've noted that Robbie Pyle, who exercised his option and moved to the outside, why is that?
Well, you know, the outside of this racetrack is definitely the optimum groove. You know, there's some compound banking. It's pretty flat on the bottom. You know, the drivers definitely like to be from the middle of the racetrack up here. I think as the race goes on, you might see some guys get down on the bottom of the racetrack, and that'll make this a very good race tonight.
I think so. There's a good look at Reed Sorensen, who didn't get pole, Rob, but he has another top 5 qualifying effort.
He did have a strong qualifying run, Greg. Interesting story on Reed. He's making his debut here tonight, but it's not the first time he's raced in Indianapolis. He raced at the State Fairgrounds in Legends cars at age 7. He had a problem. He had some burns to, I guess you could say, his derriere. Well, he raced his butt off that night, and I think we'll see him do the same as he races to the front tonight.
Well, he's a cheeky fellow. We'll see some good runs. Had to go there. We are about to get going. Speaking of which, pace cars in. Green about to begin for 200 laps of Indianapolis Raceway Park. What a remarkable facility. And the race about to unfold. There's the call. Miller, wanted a very top down into turn 1. And Miller drifts out, picks up what looks like the lead, but look at, that's Garvey underneath. Took a look, couldn't get it done. Now Pyle outside. That's the line. Miller trying to stay put. Boy, if anybody in this race knows his way around this track, you got to give the nod to Butch Miller. 4 wins here, and I think he thinks the wiser of it, Gary, and settles in behind.
Yeah, you know, Butch has got a lot of laps at this racetrack. Robbie Pyle's ran real good here the last couple years, and you know, I'm sure you're going to see those guys up front for the entire race tonight.
As Robbie Pyle gets more aggressive on the wheel, Gary, you can attest to this. He had 4 pole positions last year, but Robbie Pyle didn't really lead a first lap in most of those races. So to see him fight off Butch Miller, who wanted to take advantage early, was able to do so. So Pyle's up to the task tonight.
Well, Rob, one of the comments about Robbie, always fast, but could he get the deal done? Well, he's fighting hard early.
Yeah, he's been always referred to as a gentleman racer, but I asked him just before he climbed into his car, what's the plan? He said, lead every lap and win this race with intensity. So I didn't think Butch Miller, though he's the veteran, would get the best of Pyle at the start.
Well, and I'll tell you, the lap that Pyle turned in qualifying, I mean, he ended up 2/10 or more clear of everybody else. His average speed, 111.18. Miller's 109.7. Gary, in this type of racing, that's a calendar year.
Yes, it is.
Big.
Yes, it is.
Right there, Miller tucks in. He's pretty close. The two of them have gapped it just a little bit, have about a half second. And Garvey next up, then almost a full second back to number 1, Sawinski. And talk about experience in that group of top 4 right now. That's where it's at. Sorensen sits in the 5th spot. Here's a look at the 30 of Kittleson as he's trying to make his way up. He's gone from 14th to 10th in these opening few laps, tucking in behind Todd Cleaver. We're on board here now with the number 1. No, check that. I'm sorry. This is Kittleson we were on board with for just a minute.
Yeah, Travis had a great race last week at Mansfield, and you know, I'm looking for.
Robbie
That's
Pyle.
Robbie Pyle has an off, spins down to the inside of the racetrack, about 2/3 of the way down the back straight.
Unreal.
Huh. Well, it's going to be interesting to see whether he did that all by himself or what may have happened there. Got to look there at our top 5. So Pyle, his plans going seriously wrong in the early going here. We have completed 6 laps, working lap 7. Here's a look at the top 5. Welcome back to Indianapolis Raceway Park. First caution coming out early because pole qualifier and leader Robbie Pyle having a bit of a moment. And we're going to take a look and see what happened here, Gary. And it looked like, looks like Butch giving him a heck of a run here. Ooh.
Gave him a little bit more than that, but was Robbie's car going straight when Butch got into him there, Gary?
I think Robbie might have got a little bit loose right there. I talked to Bill McGowan, the crew chief on the 63 car before the race. He told me they qualified with a very loose car, and obviously Robbie was a little bit loose. Butch might have taken a little bit of air off the spoiler, got him going that way, and just a little touch got him going the rest of the way.
Well, let's check in with Rob Albright.
We could conjecture all night long, but let's get it from the horse's mouth. Robbie Pyle, what happened?
I don't know. It just got loose coming off of 2 there. I'm not sure if I got help or not. I'd have to see what happened.
Well, obviously, Robbie not willing to commit, not willing to place any blame, not willing to accept any responsibility, but certainly confused and disappointed over this early departure from the race. Work continues on car number 63, guys.
All right, thanks very much, Rob. And the lights are out on the pace car. Since Robbie sort of cleaned the incident up himself, we are able to get back to green. That leaves Butch Miller out front, chased by Garvey. And the number 1 is Sawinski. Sorensen now up in the 4th, and Refner sits in 5th as we are back to green. Legacy right behind Refner. And Kittleson, well, he dropped his nose down low, tried to make a move, as does Garvey. Underneath Miller, coming out of 2. And there's the evidence. That outside line gives you a little bit better exit speed. And Miller uses that to great advantage. Garvey, though, still working down low. Gary, watch for him here as they come out again. That outer line right now looks like it gets you off the corner quicker.
No doubt about it. As this race goes on, I think that bottom groove will definitely work in. It's going to be awful hard for Mike to get underneath him, getting off the corners. But as the race goes on, he'll be doing a lot more passing, probably in the middle of the corners on the bottom.
Boy, and there is number 20, Legacy, who is coming up and taking a serious run at the 80 of Refner. That's your battle right now for the 5th spot. Legacy and Refner, and Legacy going down low as well. And we keep seeing Garvey run low, and Legacy and Kittleson run low. That's going to bring that lower grove in a big hurry.
No doubt about it, Greg. These BFG tires, we get more rubber put down on the racetrack. The race cars really like that.
It was funny, I was talking to Garvey last week, and he was chatting about, he likes to race where there aren't cars. If it's outside of the track, he'll go there, and it looks like if it's inside, he'll work that too.
Yeah, Mike's definitely an on-the-gas kind of guy, and this racetrack definitely suits his driving style.
The racetrack was done over, I believe, in 1999, and really that created that second groove on the inside because it was a very hard racetrack to pass on it. And the first guy to find it was a guy that won that race that day in 1999, Scott Hansen, and he was down there on the bottom in 3 and 4 and found something. And I think these ASA cars have adapted well to getting that lower groove where Greg Stewart is right now in the body balance Chevy.
And Scott is actually in this race, so maybe able to watch a little bit of that. Meanwhile, enjoy this one. This is right now the battle for the 10th spot. That's 33 Stewart. He's going after Toby Porter, working the inside for Greg Stewart. The body balance machine underneath Porter. And looks like, well, let's see, watch the exit, and that's where it comes in. Porter just enough snap, almost slingshot like off the corner, gets that nose ahead, then Stewart ducks right back down underneath them. Coming after the both of them is the 06 of Davin Seitz. Side by side racing, and they've been like this lap after lap after lap. You gotta love this place.
Very racy for the IRP Oval. You know, very rare do you see side-by-side racing here this early in the race.
Boy, and Stewart absolutely relentless in working that inside, Jim. He does not want to give up on Porter here and just try and force his way by.
Stewart started the 11th position. This is the battle for 10th, but Greg Stewart also had his best run of the season last year here at IRP. Finished third on the podium, and I asked him before the race, can you do it again? And he said, man, we have a different car. Gene Roberts, the crew chief's been working on this car to get it handling better to his liking and to the driver Greg Stewart's liking. They came here and tested. They got the car comfortable, and looks like it's working pretty good so far.
Oh, and look at this. Did something just happen to Miller's car? Did he just get forced because Garvey went by him in a big, big hurry, and Miller suddenly slowed up, Rob?
Dion Deneau, crew chief for Butch Miller. Robbie Pyle stopped short of blaming Butch. Now Butch has dropped the spot. What did Butch say to you, and what's going on right now?
Well, Butch, he felt really bad. He wasn't sure if he hit him or not. We got the replay on TV, and Robbie had already snapped sideways before Butch made any contact. So I think it was just a racing accident. Wasn't Butch's fault, and I don't think Robbie's mad at anybody. We're okay.
Car okay now. He's lost a spot to Mike Garvey.
We're just a little free right now, so there's no use running hard. We'll be all right.
Well, Dion Deneau is the man, and he says the Butch is just biding his time, guys.
Well, we have the benefit of having Gary St. Amant in the booth, and he knows all about a free race car, Gary. And you mentioned before we went on the air, this racetrack is a little different than what maybe some teams have adjusted to before the race tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, last year the racetrack was a free racetrack. Usually we want the car to be free during qualifying, during the daytime, and it's going to tighten up at night. But last year was a different story. You know, the racetrack actually loosened up during the race, and you know, I would look for probably the same thing to happen tonight.
Look here at number 44, Peter Casalino, as he's running up behind the 25. And keep in mind now that Casalino had a big wreck in practice. Didn't even get a qualifying time. He is doing a great job in coming up here trying to run with the number 25 of Mike Cope. So he's having a good run, but Jurkovic coming up and working on dusting him a little bit here too, as they're working it over at this stage. Boy, good racing everywhere on the track at this point. Boy, this group's coming up on a huge crowd. Cope goes around. That's the 05 of Chris Wimmer. Casalino trying to get up high and go around with him. Boy, Cope got a nice break there as he gets underneath the 2 of Chad Wood. Looks like he's got some traffic up front. Meanwhile, here is the lead group. We're on board now with Kevin Sawinski. It's the midterm report card for Kevin Sawinski. Here's a look at what some people speculated might be his report card for much of the season here now with this race. We're going to be going to what the drivers think their midterm report card might say. Here's Kevin.
I think the whole team has probably got about a B+. You know, we've had great finishes, ran up front, won a couple races. There's a few that we had a little mistakes in, and we also feel that we can improve also and hopefully win more races.
ASA Racing, they built champions, and right now they're building some characters. A couple of very strong veterans up front, and then a couple of very talented rookies, 4th and 5th. There is your leader, 17, Mike Garvey with the new Janet King sponsorship, working some serious traffic. Butch Miller in tow. The margin about 3/4 of a second right now. Garvey, boy, if he could get through some cars here and park Butch a little bit, this is a great opportunity. Garvey goes high, but Butch goes high right with him at this point. Now, take a look at this battle for the 6th spot. There's the number 80 of Brian Repner. And I think easily the best run of the season, the number 26 of Danny Edwards, really hounding him right now, sitting in that 7th spot.
Well, this team has gone to a new Howe chassis. The yellow 26 we're seeing on the screen. It's an unsponsored car. Danny's Glass is the company business for the family, but Danny Edwards somehow loves this IRP racetrack. He ran a Busch Series race here. He finished top 5, as Rob told you earlier, at this racetrack. For some reason, it clicks. When Greg Edwards was behind the wheel last race in this car, they had some handling problems. They got it figured out tonight, though.
Oh, big time. And this line that they're running in 1 and 2, it's almost like they're diamonding the corner, Gary. I'm watching it. They turn in, go way up to the wall mid-corner at the exit of 1 and entry 2, then back down again. That seems a little different than I saw in practice.
Well, you know, what you have is the racetrack is a lot better right now than what it was in the sun. And, you know, they're using a lot more of the racetrack to get a lot better run, to get off the corner. And, you know, getting off of 2 is a tricky part of this racetrack. And when you can use all the racetrack in the middle of 1 and 2, it definitely helps you off of 2.
We continue watching that battle for 6. Refner with Edwards all over him, that left box, and then behind them is the battle for the 10th spot. Number 11, Toby Porter has it, 33, Stewart. These two guys still absolutely at war as well. And Gary, we were talking a little bit about that incident with Robbie Pyle, and did Butch hit him to start it or not? And you said that it looked like maybe Butch took a little air off the spoiler and he got loose and then lifted, and that's when he got into him. More on the aero. This track is very crucial for aerodynamics.
Yes, it is. You know, there's a lot of speed at this racetrack. You're carrying a lot of corner speed, a lot of speed getting off the corner. Just a little bit of air off the spoiler, just enough to get you a little bit loose, and you know, it definitely put Butch right there, and I think Butch got into him just a little bit, but just a racing deal.
One of them deals.
Yes, it is.
Well, I tell you, Greg Stewart is absolutely relentless. Wherever Porter goes, Stewart goes. And right now, Rob, Stewart continues to try and work a low line, anything to get by.
Yeah, you kind of have to wonder about Greg Stewart's health. He's been limping around the pit area all day, burned his foot just a couple of weeks ago. It's healed rather slowly. He's got a tender foot, but it's pretty heavy on that gas pedal right now, guys.
He's doing a heck of a job. Maybe it's easier to just let it rest heavy there, as you said. Meanwhile, here's 29. This is Reed Sorensen, and he is trying to reel in the number 1 of Sawinski. Looking back from Kevin, there's Reed, and Reed seems to catch him when they get on a free track, but once they start to get into a group of traffic, Sawinski, I don't know whether that car's working better in traffic, because I would assume the aero is pretty crucial there, working traffic, or whether he's just that veteran experience. He's picking holes a little bit cleaner, but got to be impressed with Sorensen this year.
Yeah, you know, Kevin's got a lot of laps on this racetrack. I don't think Reed has a lot of laps. That very well could be the reason why you see Kevin, you know, pull away a little bit in traffic.
You know, Reed Sorensen had the lead at Toledo Speedway this year, and he let kind of Mike Garvey worked his way into a position to pass, and Reed kind of followed suit. This is a classroom exercise here, guys. He's a junior in high school going to school right behind Kevin Sawinski right now.
Smart thing, really. I mean, if you don't have a lot of laps and guys that have run this track and know what it's doing, just follow them.
Yep, exactly.
Feel it out, and Reed's following, and he's following right close. Doing a nice job, and of course, the guy that's chasing him in that Rookie of the Year points sits in the 8th spot, so Sorensen doing what he needs to do right now. And I think the spoiler tonight, maybe in that rookie battle, is the guy behind Sorensen. He's a bit behind, but I'm talking about Scott Lagasse Jr.
And Gary St. Amont's in the booth with us, and I've been meaning to ask you this, and maybe this is the best time. Reed Sorensen's being compared to Jimmy Johnson. He's a driver that Jimmy is, the driver that you got to help introduce to stock car racing here in ASA, and it's great to see young talent, but man, these kids are almost too good, aren't they?
Yes, they are. It's just amazing that the talent that this series has brought in. You know, you brought in Jimmy. You know, wow, Jimmy's went a long way since he was here in ASA. Reed Sorensen, I think he has the same groundwork that was laid for Jimmy. I think he's in the same path, headed for the same stardom as Jimmy, and you know, who's going to be next? Who knows?
Well, we did a graphic in the last show where we compared Jimmy and Reed at that point in the season, and Reed's stats were slightly better than Jimmy's were in his first year. And the interesting thing, Butch Miller, I think, gave Reed Jimmy Johnson one of the great compliments. Butch said, I would stand that year and watch him qualify, and he was so smooth, and he goes, suddenly he'd be full throttle, and I go, where did he do that? And he said, I actually tried to model some of my driving after Jimmy Johnson, which I think is some tremendous stuff. Here's the battle, 12th through 15th. You see number 86 right there, and number 5. I mean, these guys having a great scrap. Then number 2, Chad Wood, and behind them is the 44 Casalino, but Joey Miller has looped it right in the middle of the track, turned, well, really midpoint, 3 and 4, and everybody seems to have caught that. The spotters on top of their game as well, and nobody getting into him at this point after the incident. He's bailing out of the car, so that car apparently is not going to go anywhere without some help.
We've had some wall bangers in practice, about half a dozen. Joey Miller was one of them, collected in turns 3 and 4, a really tricky place on the racetrack, and Joey Miller on a partial schedule here has trouble during the race now.
And there is number 44 Casalino, who we talked about had a bit of an incident in practice, and Rob, it's remarkable that one he's running, let alone this fast.
It certainly is, you guys. In practice this morning, he crashed hard in the first practice session. He loaded the car, took it back to his race shop. One of the good things about being housed close to the facility, he has 2 race cars and 1 engine. So he took the car back to his race shop, took the Lingenfelder Chevrolet engine out of the crashed car, put it in the backup car, loaded it up, brought it back to Indianapolis Raceway Park, rolled in the back gate literally in time to go through tech inspection. Just as he cleared tech, he climbed in and went racing. No more practice, no time in this car whatsoever. A truly amazing story tonight, guys.
And he's cracked the top 15 now and has done so by outrunning the likes of Mike Cope and Davin Seitz and the like. So Peter Cozzolino is definitely showing something, I think, today.
Well, Peter tested here 2 times, and he's also had experience here. This is probably the track that he's had the most laps on of any ASA track we go to.
Speaking of testing, and I've been talking about Scott Lagasse, he's a rookie. He's never raced here, but they came here, I think it was June 18th, and they did some testing, and he was grinning. He said, I think we got a good car for this track. He actually wasn't happy with where he qualified, and qualified 7th after missing a few races. So I think they really feel they've got something.
Yeah, Scotty definitely has a lot of talent. That's a great race car that he has underneath him there.
A little history to it.
Has a little history. I don't know how much we need to say. Jim, why don't you better bring that up. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything.
The car was blue in 2001, and it was a number 9. And that car that Legacy's driving is the car that Johnny Sauter drove to 10 victories in 2001 on his way to a championship. And Joey Miller, bad break for him. They came and tested here, but he's been playing around. He's been running different series to get some testing. He said it's a lot different racing IRP than it is at Texas Motor Speedway or Kentucky, where he's going 160 in a Kodak Southeast Series car. So he's adjusting to the track, and unfortunately the track bit him tonight.
Yeah, I would say so. And he is, I'll tell you what, Joey Miller's a lot of fun to watch, as is this guy, Reed Sorensen. What a story this season. And here's the midterm report card for Reed Sorensen. And as I said, throughout the race tonight, we're going to be checking in with the drivers, find out what they think their report card is at this time of the year.
I'd have to say probably a B- right now. We started out the season pretty good with a strong run at Lakeland, and fell off a little bit and then came back running strong here again. And just a couple things we need to work out in the shop and get a little bit faster. And I think we got a good car for the end of the year.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is how things started. Robbie Pyle, pole sitter, opted for the outside, went to a strong early lead. Bought Butch Miller coming after him, and Robbie Pyle got a little loose on lap 5, checked up, and Miller got into him. Listen to the onboard here. You hear Robbie lift right before Butch hit him. Right there, you could hear it. That was just enough. Butch so close, couldn't do anything about it. Robbie goes around, and Miller into the lead, but it didn't last too long because look at this move by Garvey. Got underneath, and Miller realized he wasn't going to be able to fight him off, and the wise veteran said, go ahead, take it and run with it at this stage. Want to remind everybody, coming up tomorrow, Speed News, NASCAR edition, 7 p.m. Eastern time right here on Speed. Followed immediately at 7:30 by Speed News Sunday. All the news about NASCAR, followed by all the news left over in the world of motorsports, and it all comes to you right here on Speed, starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Eastern time. Pace car has made its way down in, and we should be going back to green as we complete the quarter mark of this race, and here we go. Garvey brings him to the line. Miller in tow, then Sawinski, then Sorensen and Lagasse, and then they're fanning out, and that's Edwards, who is up to 6th with Kittleson 7th. They're working around some lap traffic. And we'll see what Lagasse has here. He'd actually dropped quite a bit off the back end of 29 Sorensen prior to that yellow. We'll see if he's got anything here. Meanwhile, we're on board with Kevin Sawinski as he's trying to follow Butch Miller as they work through some traffic here. But look at Garvey. Man, he is absolutely hooked up and gone. And Rob, not a surprise. The crew chief and this driver, they're a package.
They have certainly been strong this season. Shane Tesh, the crew chief. Shane, is Mike happy with the car you put under him tonight? And at what point can you stop for fuel and be able to go the distance?
Yeah, Mike's real happy. He hasn't said much. What he has said is, guys, just be quiet, let me concentrate. We're going to see how many guys we can put a lap down tonight. Fuel mileage, we're in our fuel window right now. We'll be good.
Some drivers talk a lot, some talk little, and some say, like Mike Garvey, almost nothing at all, guys.
Yeah, but by saying what he said and saying almost nothing at all, he speaks volumes. When you have the confidence to say, don't bother me, let's just see how many guys we can put a lap down tonight, I think that's pretty fair evidence that the driver thinks he's got a good car.
Yes, it is.
And let's not forget that he could have had easily, I think, 5 wins this year. We've talked about that.
Well, the strategy of Kevin Sawinski winning last race, Gary, he came in and just pitted for fuel once, and I think it was a stop and go the second time. So, you know, there's a lot of thought about this, and they made a rule in ASA where you have to pit twice now.
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't know. If this was being a 200-lap race, is this a 2-stop or 1-stop race?
It's a 2-stop race. Anything under 250. Now, the thing about it is these teams have to come down pit road, and what Kevin Sawinski did in that number 1 car last race that got him track position in Mansfield was that he came down pit road, got gas the first time. The second time down was almost a splash, if anything. He stopped in his pit box. That's the minimum you have to do. Made those 2 pit stops and went on to win.
And it worked to very good effect, obviously. watching again Scott Lagasse, who sits right now in that 5th spot. And Rob, you talked to him a little bit earlier in the day about being able to keep the heat on. He's doing it.
He certainly is. You know, Scott is only able, because of finances, to run a handful of races. Amazing for a rookie. He still manages to be competitive, though he's not competed here. This is his debut at IRP. His dad raced here, Scott Lagasse Sr., in a truck in 1995. Scott tested here briefly, and apparently that little bit of testing held him in great stead. He is certainly a young man on a mission this evening. Guys?
Without doubt, we're watching him in spots. He's actually closing up pretty significantly on Sorensen. And in other spots, Sorensen's car looks to really be equally strong, if not better. But right here, Lagasse really does get a little bit of a run on him coming out of 4th.
Lagasse in that black 20 car. Now we look back here as the top 10 cars now come through the line. Looks like Greg Stewart's pulling low here.
Yeah, big problem. Something happened. Oh, he had a great run going. Almost down on the apron. Smoke coming off of the back in spots.
Boy, so much bad luck for Greg Stewart this year. You know, he's one of a handful of drivers that just can't seem to buy a break.
I think you're the other part of the handful, Gary.
Yeah, exactly.
What a tough break for these guys. Again, they came here and tested, had some limited testing time, but it's nothing looks like chassis related. It looks like there's some smoke. Maybe the right front wheels get a little shiny. Speculation, maybe water or something like that might have let go, a water line or something. And man, he continues around the racetrack, but he's also fighting about a two $half size blister on his right foot next to his pinky toe, right where his foot rests on the firewall. He said for some reason he got burned pretty bad at I-70, and that's been irritating him quite a bit since. So adding insult to injury, Gary, you know firsthand how that feels when you're banged up and you're not running well.
Those burns definitely take a long time to heal, you know, after a race like that.
Watch now, we're going to show you some speeds at the line, which is a pretty good indication how things are going. And there it is, 105.7 for your leader, Garvey. And then 105.6, 105 flat, and 105.7 for Sorensen. So pretty close there. But the thing is, Garvey's getting around the track much more effectively right now. And he's opened up over a 2.5-second lead right now over the 52 of Butch Miller.
Danny Edwards, the 3rd fastest car there. Now, there's something to be said for that team because they're kind of hunting and pecking, and they have some time, maybe more time to prepare for these races. And we saw Scott Frazier a couple years ago come in and run well, but he only ran 4 or 5 races. The Edwards brothers want to get more sponsorship, but they really have it together when it's time to prepare. And Gary, as you know, sometimes there's not enough time if you're running a full schedule.
That's a great point, Jim. You know, when you do focus on that one race, that one racetrack, you definitely can play to your benefit. And obviously the Edwards are running good here tonight, and that test definitely helped them out.
Well, you know, we've been doing report cards all night, and you've got the, you know, the sophomores and you've got the students, but this guy is the graduate student of all time here. And here's his midterm report card. Coming up right now, we're going to hear from Butch. What does he think?
B+. But we've stepped up our testing program. Big, extensive testing program. Look for us to come on the end of the season, move to an A+.
Welcome back, everybody. The Club 200, presented by BF Goodrich Tires, 9th round of the ASA Championship National Tour this year. And you got to look there at the top 5. Garvey having a very strong run. He's lost a little bit of that margin as they've got into some traffic, but that's just sort of the nature of the beast here right now. But Garvey looks to have an awfully strong, very, very tough package right now. One of the guys that we're watching as he's back out on the track is number 63, Robbie Pyle. Sans hood, problems on the back deck of the car as we hop on board, but as Rob talked about at the top of the show, he's 3rd in the championship right now. He's, I would imagine, looking for any kind of possible points he can get.
That fender's flapping on the front, but Gary St. Amant, that rear deck lid is something that might cause nightmares for you. That trunk that's made out of metal right there, that's something Joey Clanton did and kept you out of the championship, didn't it?
I think it was La Crosse, Wisconsin, where Joey had backed into the wall and had a lot of body work done, and yeah, it was that deck lid with that spoiler on it that got him enough points that ultimately cost me $75,000 last year for the championship.
So they just, I mean, you can just have that piece sitting there just in case, so you can bolt it in. And
yeah, and it just so happens that my crew chief from last year, Bill McGowan, is now Robbie's crew chief, so he's obviously taken advantage of everything that that has been worked against him.
You see in the graphic here just how close that championship battle is. Miller 105 a grip to Sawinski, but then Pyle came in here only 35 behind Butch, and not that far clear by what, some 12 points. or 18 points of the gentleman behind him. So Robbie, obviously very attuned to that point scenario right now, and really not running all that bad considering the lack of effective aero in spots on that car.
He's going to take a pretty big hit tonight. You know, obviously there's going to be a lot of cars running here at the end of a 200-lap race, and it could end up hurting Robbie's chances for the championship this year.
And that's going to be a real shame. Meanwhile, here's number 1 Sawinski Sorensen, the number 29 behind him, and then Scott Legacy, the black car, with just really the contingency decals on it. Oh, Sorensen, boy, did he drop low to try and take a run at Sawinski. Couldn't quite do it, floated back up again, but people exploring those lines.
Now, if you think about this, Kevin Sawinski is showing Reed Sorensen his line. He's showing his line, showing his line. Sorensen's fast enough. He's as fast as Kevin right now, but now he's starting to play a little bit, saying, okay, teacher, you may not be showing me everything, but I'm going to try and find something else to get around you.
Well, I mean, you can be faster, you can run somebody down, but if you just stay behind them, you're never going to be faster than they are. You're never going to pass them. At some point, you got to get creative.
Right, and I think Jim, you know, he brought up a good point. You know, he's definitely followed Kevin enough tonight to know where his strong points and weak points are, and eventually, I would look for the 29 car to be pressuring the 1 car a lot harder than what he is right now.
Look there at the 0-4 of Zach Niesner, of course, Miller's teammate. Meanwhile, Garvey up front, and that margin has ballooned. I mean, just a couple laps ago, it was 1.1 seconds. It's now 3.6. Garvey is absolutely scything through traffic.
Yeah, he finished way back in 6th last race. I mean, he is on a charge this year. He's at a fast race car virtually everywhere we've gone. And we talked about him being a high bank specialist. He won at I-70 a couple years ago. He's been now dominating Cedar Rapids since, and that's a flat racetrack. When you come to a medium compound bank track, man, this Garvey guy's pretty good just about everywhere now.
Well, and it doesn't hurt that he's also wielding the facile car tonight. That thing is absolutely hooked up and working.
Lap sled tells a story as well. He's going to add to that total tonight. Kevin Sawinski is running in second when it comes to that. Kevin had a great start to the year, got an early jump in the points, as did Butch Miller, but those points and those laps that Mike Garvey's led have really come in those races he's won. 3 so far this season out of 8 races.
Yeah, he's definitely been the rabbit in a sense. And there's the margin. You can see it is substantial. But Garvey's been the rabbit. He's been the guy who's just been fast all the time. And Sawinski's definitely sort of been the tortoise, not to imply he's not quick, but he's just accrued points. Gets a win when he's got a car to win. And that's part of the success story. I mean, if you're going to win a championship, when you got a car to win, you've got to win. But if you don't have a car to win, you got to take what it gives you and get those points.
That's exactly right, Greg. And I'll tell you one thing, too, about Mike Garvey. You know, with the addition of Janet King, you know, I think that, you know, Mike is going to be awful tough the rest of the year. This championship battle is going to be a great race all the way down to that final race at Nashville, Tennessee.
Now, Gary, you're sitting with us this race. You plan on getting back out there this year, right?
I don't know. I'm having awful fun. I've had a lot of fun up here with you guys. Now, we should be back at Madison.
Now we look forward to that. Meanwhile, Garvey continues to run, but Rob, let's check in with you down in Reed Sorensen's pit.
You know, you could add Reed Sorensen's age to that of his crew chief, Jody Wilkerson. It probably would still be less total years than a number of the veteran drivers in this field tonight. Yet they are running very well tonight, as they have all season long. Jody Wilkerson, you look very calm. Is the race going according to plan? And when do you anticipate your first 2 pit stops?
Yeah, we're just riding right now. The car's really good right now. Reed's staying real calm in the car. And we're just waiting for the next caution to see what we're going to do.
You know, maybe the only guy on the grounds more calm than driver Reed Sorensen is his crew chief, Jody Wilkerson. Back to the booth, guys.
Thanks, Rob. And we just saw Butch Miller once again lose 2 spots, and it was in that same spot of the track. I wonder if people getting up behind him, taking air off of that spoiler, is just causing him not to be able to turn in too well. I'm interested in this one. Mike Garvey, here's the report card. How can you argue with it? What a season he's had. I can't wait to find out what Mike Garvey himself thinks the score for his team is at this point of the season.
I'd give our team an A+ right now. You know, we really got these guys together right before the season started. We've won, 3 of the first 7 races. We've had a shot at winning every race. I don't know how much better we can do than that. They've gave me everything I need, and I've just got to make sure we get the car to the end. So, I mean, I've got to give our team an A+.
Craftsman truck action is fierce, particularly when they run at Kansas. And you can check it out here on Speed. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series next Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live right here on Speed. Enjoy it. It's going to be a great one. There's the number 17 of Mr. Garvey. That margin back up again to over 3.5 seconds. The guy is just magic right now in traffic. working very, very strongly indeed at this point.
Somebody needs a caution. It's Chris Wimmer right here. He qualified in the top 15 again, but looks like his car's a bit off on handling it. As fast as Garvey's going, getting down a lap here, it'll be really hard to make up as he just gets lapped by the leader.
Yeah, Mike is definitely putting some good cars down a lap now. Chris Wimmer, Davin Seitz, a winner. I see Ricky Turner up there in front of him in the Janikin car.
And with ease.
Yes.
I mean, it's, it isn't like he's really having to scrap to go by. He is definitely hooked up right now. I love his report card, the A+, and I think he's right. I mean, like we said, he could have won 5. He's been ultra quick. I mean, it's just an incredible job. Now let's go back a little bit. This is 11th spot, 86, having himself a very good run, taking over the Janikin car, Ricky Turner. And obviously it's a tough deal for him coming in, not real familiar with these cars. And he's up against Peter Cozzolino, who I think continues to be one of the big stories tonight. This is for 11th. Cozzolino takes it. With the problems he had earlier for Cozzolino, if he cracked the top 10, that's a great effort, and it looks like he's just going quicker and quicker.
Well, if there's anywhere that Peter Cozzolino can overcome adversity at the track that's familiar to him, we mentioned he had to take the car to the race shop to change the motors to get in this backup car, but they're very close on their setup. They worked very hard. Specifically for this race, the McDonald's sponsorship comes out of this area, so they want to do well for their sponsors as well.
Boy, and you see him, he is working hard. Back end coming out a little bit on him, coming out of 2 there, loosens up, gets a good run down the track here, so he's driving hard at this point. And with, well, results, there's no question of that. I mean, the next guy, if he can get up to him, is going to be the number 11, a Toby Porter, but he's about 2 seconds adrift. There's that battle for 11th here on the left of the screen. The other box is the battle for the 7th spot right now. 30, Kittleson has it, and 55, Cleaver is behind him. But I think Kittleson just got by Cleaver. He's been chasing him for a little bit. And Ricky Turner right there, or excuse me, that's 32, Wangren. Very close as Cozzolino cleared him. He almost came up and just got into the back Cozzolino. They just managed to avoid it. So incredibly close at this point. There's the 30 of Kittleson. Hop on board, looking back at Cleaver right now.
Todd Cleaver's kind of in the tire tracks here of the 30 car of Travis Kittleson. And Kittleson really wanted to have a good race tonight. He said, I wanted to win in a pole by now this season. So he feels a bit of the pressure, but he was kind of the pressure cooker starter last race. He's going to be running pretty clean here at IRP. And unfortunately, he's got some challenges by Todd Cleaver just behind him.
Well, we were sort of speculating on things, and I think Cleaver realized, or Cleaver having a very good run, but it was the driver of this car, Kittleson, noticed, and how could he not, that Sorensen was starting to skip out on him in terms of those points. And you can see here it was much closer early in the year, and now Kittleson's tailed off just a little bit, and I think that turned him into a little bit more of an aggressive combatant last race.
Reed finished 3rd. Travis Kittleson had a shot at the win last race, but he got a little bit heated, got a little close in competition. It cost him some spots late in the going when the inch wasn't given back in the give and take.
Well, and I mean, at the very end of it, it was Butch Miller that how they got into it with, and an uncharacteristic, I thought, loss of maybe composure by Butch as he tried to run him down and pay him back and floated a little wide. And I mean, Butch is in a championship chase. That surprised me.
Yeah, all of us race car drivers, we are emotional behind that wheel, and something gets us a little ticked off. Sometimes we might treat it a little bit differently than what we would another time.
Absolutely, and watch now, Garvey coming out of 4, and when he crosses the line, it's not only the halfway point of the season, but of this race, which means the BF Goodrich Tires halfway leader award. And boy, did Garvey has earned that one here as he goes. Look at that, he's lapping Refner.
Wow, what a race car Mike Garvey has here tonight.
Ryan Refner back in the 18th position. We mentioned how good of a practice session he had. Again, this long stretch of green, these teams are really trying to find adjustments, and I would think a lot of them will come down pit road at the next opportunity.
Well, you'd think they absolutely would, but it's amazing here, the long run here. Certainly Garvey's car continues to be very quick, but when you've got mandatory stops, you've got these long stretches of green. What's going on between the driver chatting with the crew chief, Gary?
Well, right now, I'll tell you what, there were some guys that made pit stops early in the race, and the longer this race goes under green, those guys that can stay on the lead lap that's already made pit stops, it'll play to their advantage because Mike Garvey, some of the other front runners, they're still going to have to make their 2 pit stops. Other guys, they're going to end up with a track position, could end up with winning race cars. We don't see them up front right now. By the end of this race, things could be a lot different.
Well, maybe that's Garvey's whole mindset here, is to get out big right now and try and make something of it. Meanwhile, we're on board with Travis Kittleson. Here's a look at his midterm report card here, and it's been pretty decent. Visiting with Travis is always a lot of fun. Here's what he had to say.
I'd like to give ourselves a B-. This team just started about 4 years ago. None of these guys really worked on race cars before that, and I never drove race cars before that. So all in all, I'd like to give us a B-.
Speed Channel's live coverage of ASA Racing from Indianapolis Raceway Park is being brought to you by new odor eaters plus arch supporting insoles. The only arch supporting insole that protects against odor and wetness. Number 17, Mike Garvey, the margin now down to about 2.7 seconds. But look at this battle here, and that's Edwards as he goes by Legacy, and he brings Kittleson with him. Huge implications right there. Oh, and Cleaver gonna duck underneath as Legacy gets forced up just a little bit. Cleaver comes by as well. There we're on board with Kittleson looking back. Cleaver, the right of your screen, the yellow nose. Legacy to the left, and Cleaver makes the pass here. I'll tell you what, right now, this battle is one of the best on the track, and Todd Cleaver having himself another strong performance.
You know, if you met 24-year-old Todd Cleaver off the racetrack, he's bespectacled, he's quiet-spoken, and you'd say this guy's got to be a CPA or something like that instead of a pro race driver. That's why it was so surprising a couple of weeks ago in the top 10 in points in just his second ASA campaign. He decided it was time for a crew chief change. He brought in Les Crooks. They followed it with a 10th place finish at I-70, and then last weekend at Mansfield, he ended up 14th, but he ran a lot stronger than that. You know, we haven't talked about him much this season. We've talked about young guns. He is definitely a young gun to be reckoned with, guys.
Young, talented drivers are bred here in ASA, the series that builds champions. 1993, we saw a bespectacled, quiet young man win a championship in ASA, Johnny Benson Jr. So he's kind of got that whole, he looks more like a studious type than a race driver. Same thing for Todd Cleaver.
So bespectacled means wears glasses.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got them googly eyes, yeah.
And look who's right behind Cleaver right now. That red number 44, Casalino, has now moved to 8th.
Brent Downey going a lap down out of Avon, Indiana. He's in a car that was driven last year by the 11 team with David Stremme behind the wheel, trying to get some notes off of Howie Leto as they won this race last year here at Salem Speedway.
Look at this move here. Casalino way down low, trying to get underneath Cleaver, and he's going to try and follow. Casalino loosened up a little bit, and that was a nice piece of driving. He could have easily drifted up and clipped Cleaver, and he just sort of survived it, I think, Gary.
Yes, he did. You know, Pete had a few skirmishes early in the year, and here the last couple of races, that team's really seemed to get their act together. Pete coming forward in a big hurry. What a great race tonight for Peter Casalino.
I got to ask you here, we got a car number 54, couple laps down, up in the fast groove. These guys coming up to race them. And from your perspective, just how frustrating is that when you're in the middle of a battle and you get parked?
Well, you know, a lot of times, you know, they get there before you know it, and if you're up high, you need to let all the cars go before you try and get down. And Dave Mader obviously got hung up high there and did all he could do to let those lead cars go.
And with as tricky as this racetrack is, Gary, if his car's not working anywhere else, I would guess he'd pretty much have to be stuck in that line, right?
No doubt about it. You know, an ill-handling race car here on the bottom is really bad.
Well, especially if you're the guy going around the outside, and that car gets away. And here we go. Casalino continues the march, slips by Travis Kittleson at 6th. Cleaver is now in 8th. We hop on board now with Kittleson and Walt Casalino. This is the drive of the race. I don't think there's any question of that at this stage. I mean, don't take anything away from Garvey, obviously, but what he's had to overcome.
No doubt, Greg. I mean, when you take to the fact that they left the racetrack to go back and rebuild their race car, showed up, you know, right before the race with basically a different race car than what they had practiced here all day. It's a great race for Peter Casalino. You know, he's raced here in a lot of Sunoco Series races, and I have a feeling that all that track experience here is definitely paying off for him tonight.
You just saw as we slip on board with Robbie Pyle, the speed that these guys are going by here, and Casalino comes up, puts a lap of his own on Chris Wimmer. That's an interesting deal, isn't it? How do you get the ultimate trick setup on your race car? Well, I spank it off the wall once really hard. It just seems to come in for me. Boy, Cleaver really impressive here as well as he's hunting down Kittleson.
Todd Cleaver running a bit different line. We see Kittleson's running that more familiar outer groove and again dipping low, and almost pinching the corner. And Gary, I would think sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't if you pinch more than once in the corner to get a run on somebody.
Well, you know, these BF Goodrich tires, they're great race tires, but, you know, you pinch them down and you're going to abuse the tire a little bit more than what you're going to be up in the upper groove. And, you know, too much of that might end up making you go a little bit backwards. Obviously, there are some cars that are working really good on the bottom of the racetrack, and those are the cars that are moving up front right now.
Weaver finished 38th here last year, so this is longer than he's run here at IRP. And man, we're already past halfway, clicking laps off left and right. And Gary, this is a testament to see Greg Williams there in the Midwest Automotive Group car going to the inside because he knows he's got faster guys around him. But that says a lot because there's been some accidents early this season that somehow could have been avoided, to some's opinion and some people's opinion, including Steve Dale, the new owner of ASA.
Exactly, Jim. You know, Steve has talked quite a bit in the drivers' meetings about let's clean this racing up. You know, we need to get a lot of racing on the racetrack. And, you know, obviously these guys have listened tonight. I can't believe there's 123 laps down now already. And what have we had? 2 cautions. What a great race we're having here tonight.
And both minor. I mean, really, there was nothing huge. So it was quick cleanups and the like. Battle for 11th here. Toby Porter in the number 11 Meyer car. The left of your screen, the white machine number 11 up front, and that blue car, Wood, is the guy who is in the 12th spot right now as they come working through traffic. And this is what traffic can do to a battle. These guys were absolutely tied with a tether not that long ago. They get some traffic. One guy gets through clean. The other guy's got to work it. And once again, on a track like this, we talked about the aero. How crucial is it when you're running traffic? I mean, what can you do to these cars to say, Mike, I need to set my car up to run well in traffic?
Well, really, in traffic, there's not a lot of aero that comes into play. I mean, I think we did see a little bit of it right there with Robbie and Butch there. You know, you might get a car loosened up a little bit off the corner. As far as the actual drafting goes, I don't think you're going to see very much of that. But, you know, handling...
Yeah, we have a yellow, and to my knowledge, I believe this is the first of our competition yellows this year. We'll talk about that. But that means some serious strategy going to be parlayed out down in the pits as a result. We've been alluding to it. Nobody has done better in the strategy department this year than Kevin Sawinski in the number 1 machine.
Series points leader Kevin Sawinski used this nifty move, a stop-and-go pit stop, to win his 2nd race of the season last weekend at Mansfield. Kevin, these new pit stop rules really force you and crew chief Mike Chaffee to think on the fly.
They really do. We didn't expect to do that. We joked earlier in the afternoon about just stopping and going, and in the middle of the race, he's like, remember what we talked about? I said, yep. He says, okay, let's do it.
Ask any driver, ask any crew chief what's most important. They'll tell you wins, but when all is said and done, it's the point standings and being number 1 at the end of the year that matters most. But here's the story right now, guys. We're talking about points for the season, but right now there is literally no strategy. The crew chiefs have all told me either 140 or 150 laps maximum on fuel. We're now 126 laps in. Remember we talked about Butch Miller dropping some spots? They said the car was extremely loose. He's getting ready to come on pit road. They'll have to take fuel. That will make the car only looser. So for the guys who are fighting a loose condition, it's going to exacerbate the problem. For the guys who are tight, it's going to make them run a lot better. But everybody, guys, as they dart onto pit road, the next time by, will be coming in for fuel. Guys?
Well, it's going to be amazing to watch what unfolds here. And, you know, one of the things, you come from your local regional series, you start racing ASA, they're longer races. And of course, if you're going to step up to Busch or Cup or whatever, they're longer races still, strategy even more important. So whether it's drivers or team members or crew chiefs, that's part of ASA's We Build Champions concept here, because they do that. This is where you learn how you win races sometimes when maybe you don't have the best car. How do you get it? What do you do to the car? What to work on? This pit sequence here is going to be fascinating to see what happens. You got to think Garvey and those guys are going to probably just do fuel and maybe work that stop and go later. I'm really interested to see what Butch Miller does.
Yeah, I think they're all going to have to take fuel now because I don't know what the fuel window was, but you know, if we happen to get another 50, 60 laps of green flag action, well then I don't think they can make it on the fuel.
And again, the choice is fuel or tires here in ASA this season. You can't do both on one stop.
Let's go down to Rob Albright.
Mike Garvey's on pit road. Gravity is the real force here as the fuel tank begins to empty. How quickly that fuel man gets the can in and out will determine the outcome. Mike Garvey is away, nearly collides on pit road with another driver. Butch Miller has stopped as well. You can see he's off pit road behind Mike Garvey.
Boy, I tell you, Rob, as well, when Sawinski came in,
I mentioned it.
He locked up and slid quite a bit, and it looked like he may have gone a little bit past his pit box. Crew reacted beautifully, but boy, when Garvey went out, he and Yurkovich almost got together, but everybody survived it, and we're back out here. We'll see how it cycles out once we go back here after this break. Welcome back, everybody. There's a good look at Mr. Chaffee, but we want to tell you a little bit. This is a great opportunity. Log on to Meyer.com, and you can enter to win the official 2003 ASA pace car, the very car you're watching right now. Meyer.com, log on, follow the instructions. At the end of the season, you may find yourself the owner of this very machine, driven mostly only on Saturdays for usually fairly brief periods, and it's showtime. A lot of fun, so check that out. But pit lane, it's an interesting place to be as we see number 66, Boris Jurgovich here in 17. Mike Garvey, they met just a little bit earlier. Watch this. Gary, you've been here.
Yeah, it was identical to that same situation last year. You know, these pits, they're really big. There shouldn't be any problems, but when it's just a quick stop and go, a quick put fuel in, you know, things are going to happen. And actually, I was turned on pit road last year. Mike got into me, and same set of circumstances.
Now the thing about it is, Mike Garvey hit him with the right front enough to make a donut on that door panel. You think that'll affect the handling at all?
No, I don't think so. I think Mike got the car slowed down enough. Actually, it was on the brake. That's probably what caused that donut on that door. And you know, I think things are going to be good.
You saw the pit summary there for a moment, and this is maybe a huge building story, Rob. This guy may be in great shape. Peter Cozzolino.
No question about that, guys. The last time we talked to this man right here, Dick Gator, crew chief for Peter Cozzolino, we were asking him to defend himself for Peter's on-track actions, his over-aggressiveness. Well, you can't question the strategy tonight, Dick. After you guys stopped early for fuel, you just came in, you got tires, you have no more pit stops to make. Could you have possibly envisioned this scenario when you went to the race shop with a battered race car just a few hours ago?
Yeah, we had a good car anyway. The McDonald's drive-through, A&A manufacturer. That's the car we ran at Mansfield, so we knew it was a good car. Only thing we did is take the motor out of the one we wrecked, put it in this one, and we pitted for gas, lap 44, and we're good to go. We hope for some more yellows to save that fuel mileage, but the car's running good.
What a Cinderella story in the making, guys. Peter Cozzolino, a shot at the win tonight. Guys?
Thanks, Rob. You saw as we went green, who immediately dropped low to start blowing by guys? Number 44, Peter Cozzolino. And my question there, as we were listening to that, was, did he stop so early and pick up fuel that he's maybe a little iffy on it? And number 3, Bill Clemens, into the wall hard. And we've got a yellow, and Zach Niesner bottled up, got into him as well.
Niesner had pitted under green early on. It could have been a handling situation, but just wrapped up in this one as that youngster trying to make a limited number of starts for the SS Racing team and juice batteries had nowhere to go, it appeared, as he got stuck to the outside for the spin at Clemens.
Well, so what do you think? Do we see Butch Miller stop down in the pits quickly and grab himself some tires? This is going to be interesting to see. There they are, getting ready on pit lane. The complexion of the race may have just changed big time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Club 200 here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Huge crowd on hand, all ages represented. Greg Creamer with Jim Trado, Gary St. Amant, and Rob Albright. And we just had a bunch of pit stops, and here's what happened. We thought we'd see a lot of stop and goes, particularly by the guy up top. It didn't happen. Everybody that came in went for the right side tires. The big story here, Gary, is watch what happened to Garvey. He got it done quick, stalled it.
Yeah, that definitely hurt Mike. Great stop, stalled the car. Reed Sorensen out first. Great stop from the 29 API team.
And Miller's stop was very quick as well. You saw him as Garvey stalled, getting by. So Miller slotted out in front of that group as well, and everybody else came out here. Kittleson getting up in front at number 1, and here is Butch Miller. And boy, I would think, Rob, that yellow couldn't have come at a better time for Butch.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Not just the fact that his crew had a great stop. They were high-fiving each other as soon as Butch was on his way. Also the fact that he really needed right side tires. We talked about the car was loose. The fuel load made it even looser. Now, with regard to Peter Cozzolino, you heard Dick Gator, his crew chief, as we went away from him a moment ago, talk about needing yellow flag laps. So we asked him after we went off camera, when did you stop for fuel? He said lap number 44. That means he needs 156 laps of fuel. Guys, that is extremely iffy.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds here. There's Butch Miller. Now, of course, we've had some great racing throughout the season, and for Butch Miller, the race last weekend at the brand new Mansfield facility was pretty interesting.
They call Butch Miller a surgeon in a race car, but sometimes the scalpel misses, as was the case last weekend when Butch Miller took a shot at rookie driver Travis Kittleson late in the going and missed. Butch, what happened out there?
I missed. You know, that's all I could say. I'd watched Travis earlier run into a few guys passing him, you know, which it was a very difficult track to pass on. And we got behind us, and we were pretty sure he was going to hit us, and we were right. I missed. But, you know, I was wrong in aiming for him. It cost us points, and if I had hit him, I'd have felt terrible.
It's all behind them now. Butch Miller has the guys hard at work, trying to replicate what he's done many times here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. That's win, both in an ASA car and in the NASCAR Busch Series.
Tell you, that's, I think, speaks volumes about Butch Miller and really just what kind of integrity he has, because he admitted, because I'm really glad I missed him, even if it cost us a lot of points. I don't want to do that. You know, and you said when you're racing a car, emotions run high, and for him, I think that mistake was what really made him feel good about it, is he didn't get into him.
Yeah, and Butch is a professional race car driver. I mean, to admit what he did right there and admit that he was wrong, you know, that takes a lot to do that. Like I said, Butch Miller, what a professional race car driver he is.
And Gary St. Amant, that was a 25-point hit that Butch did. When he slid up the hill, he drifted back, and he lost 4 positions, 5 positions in the top 10. With the laps closing down, you were 1 point away from the championship last year, Gary, and you were on a roll climbing the hill as Clanton struggled a bit. So this could be huge in the overall picture when it comes to race 17.
Could be huge indeed. Want to remind you of some other activity you're going to want to catch right here on Speed. IHRA drag racing from Richmond. That's tonight, coming at you at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So don't go too far away from the TV when we're done here at IRP, because some great IHRA drag racing action coming at you from Richmond on Speed. Field cycling around, still under caution here. Rick Beebe is the leader at this point, with Cozzolino in second. Here's a good look at Todd Cleaver, that Sign 1-1 machine that he has been running so strongly with this season, having himself a very solid run, certainly. And we checked in a little bit earlier with Todd Cleaver about his midterm report card. What does Todd think? Well, here it is.
Our on-track performance, I'd give a C. I think we're average right now, and we can be a lot better in our finishes. Effort-wise, I give my guys an A. Since our shakeup in the team, everybody's put in a lot of effort and worked really hard.
Welcome back, everybody. Just about ready to go back to green. Before we do, here is our Odor Readers Plus Art Sporting Insoles race summary. You can see we've had 143 laps complete at this point, 4 different leaders, 3 lead changes, 15 cars on the lead lap, and those cautions certainly saved that from getting worse. As we said, 4 cautions, and only 29 laps, though, under caution in this latest one we were on, really the longest caution cleaning up that incident. Otherwise, this has been easily, I think, one of the fastest races we've had run. The record here, 1 hour, 28 minutes. So we'll see where we're going to sit in that. Meanwhile, we're coming up to go green, and as it flies, enjoy the sounds of speed. Oh, Cozzolino, sorry, oh, he crosses it up, going to the throttle, coming up. Cozzolino ducks underneath Beebe and picks up the lead. That's Lagacy behind him, but down a lap, apparently, and Lagacy going strong and fast as well. But Cozzolino made that move underneath Beebe, and he looked like Kinzer for a minute. Back end came out, and he just stayed on the throttle. And, well, I'll tell you, Cozzolino is on a mission today.
And Rick Beebe really put himself in a good position there to lead that race under caution and get those 5 bonus points. But Beebe's had a really quiet run tonight to get that lead. Means they are calling great strategy on pit road.
Another guy who's having a great run is number 6. That's Kyle Jones out of Springfield, Ohio, the JBM Racing machine. And he's found himself up in the top 5 as well, although he's being cycled down a bit on board with Travis Kittleson. And now we're starting to see some of these other guys, a big march toward the front. He's in 8th right now. In front of him is Garvey. In front of him is Cleaver. There is Cleaver with Garvey. And, oh boy, here we go. Miller trying to drop down low. Trying to protect just a little bit. And there is Garvey. Let's check in with Rob on Garvey's strategy.
1 pit stop glitch, and you go from the dominant car to deep in the field. Shane Tesh, what happened on that pit stop, and can you get back to the front?
I think we can get back to the front. Kind of running down on laps there. The Janikin car's been strong all night long. We stalled the car on our tire stop here. Got us a little bit behind, but I think we can make it up. We've been pretty strong. See if we can give Janikin a good finish for their first race with us.
Even the seasoned veterans like Mike Garvey can make a pit stop problem, guys.
And even seasoned veterans like Mike Garvey get trapped down low, get that car sliding just a little bit. He just saved a big one there.
He had a loose lug nut at I-70, jumped back to 20th. Guess what he did there? He won the race. So he knows how to battle back from adversity on pit road.
Motored back. But we see right now that that car is not working quite as well low as it did earlier, because he gets down underneath Cleaver there, and the car starts to loosen up big time as he's trying to maintain that speed.
Yeah, it takes a little bit for these BF Goodrich tires to build up air pressure, and you know, you get a little bit of a tight race car in the center, loose off, and you know, as soon as they get probably 10, 15 laps under the belts here, I'd say that you'll probably see Mike heading back to the front.
Well, one of the things Mike has said all year long is that his car, particularly the last 4 or 5 races, always takes a little while to come in. Some of the other cars are quick pretty immediately. His takes a bit, so this should be a lot of fun. Look at Sorensen now. He's got Miller all over the back of him. Sorensen trying to get through some traffic here.
Notice how low Butch Miller's going in turns 3 and 4. On the restart, he was also way down on the apron on turns 1 and 2, so Butch Miller's trying to find some room to run.
Man, Dave Kittleson, Mater spins. And Kittleson was coming up and almost collected Miller, who'd obviously backed out of it just a little bit. So Mater goes around, another caution at this stage.
Remember, the Alabama gang made 2 starts last year for Lowe's Motorsports, back behind the wheel for the first time this season. And, you know, I hear so much about drivers that come to this series, Gary. It's adjusting to these BFG radial tires that is the adjustment to make. And you mentioned tire pressures. Could that have been the reason for the car spinning?
Well, I don't know. I almost think he might have been up in the groove. I'd say probably somebody tagged Dave there and got him going.
Well, he makes his way down into the pit lane right now. So as we have now completed 153 laps, and there it is right there, a little nudge from Mr. Reed Sorensen. Gives Mater the big ride and the big scrape along the wall. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. Want to remind you that you can check out NASCAR Busch Qualifying coming at you from Daytona Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Speed. Busch cars qualifying at Daytona. That is just a great weekend indeed. So make sure that you check it out Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Speed. Bob Dillner is spending some time visiting with some drivers that have had some experience in ASA.
What did ASA teach you while you were there? I think the best thing that ASA taught me was to run hard and to keep the nose on your car up. You know, the cars are made of fiberglass, and you couldn't really be running into a lot of people, wrecking a lot of people. Or you'd end up with no nose on your car. There's a lot of champions that come out of ASA. I mean, you just look at it, you know. So Mark Martin, Rusty, Dick Trickle, Alan Kowicki, Johnny Benson, a lot of those guys. And there's a lot of great drivers that have come out of ASA that haven't won championships, like Matt Kenseth, that can still get the job done. So I'd say if you're running the top 5, top 10 in ASA weekly, you're a pretty darn good driver.
All right, nice to hear that. Now let's check in, if we can, Jim, with Peter Cozzolino.
Peter Cozzolino, Jim Trado in the Speed Channel booth. You guys are tight on fuel, but you got the lead. What's the strategy now for the final few laps?
Just got to ride and stay ahead of them. We'll be all right.
Peter, did you think 2 hours ago when you're swapping motors this is possible, you leading here at IRP?
I knew we had a good car. We tested good, and it's been good. So here we go.
Be cool.
you heard the word for the crew chief. Be cool as the pace car ducks in. Cozzolino's going to bring him around. Beebe, Yurkovich, then the lap car Repner. Here we go. Well past the third, or 3/4 of the race, and enjoy the sounds of speed. Gary. It
got crazy there quick, didn't it?
Oh, man. Well, some of these guys have put tires on, obviously looking real racy and not wanting to waste a lot of time getting up to the front, and everybody's going every which way, trying to work through some of this traffic on board here with Kittleson. That's Repner right in front of him. In front of Repner is Garvey, and in front of him is Miller at this stage. That's Miller's in 4th, Garvey's in 5th, and Sorensen sits in that 3rd spot. But Casalino, we were talking about that. Another yellow, was it going to hurt him? Was it going to help him? Well, I think that long yellow probably did, because it gave him, I think now he can run hard to the finish on fuel. The question is he going to be able to hold off the likes of these guys?
I'll tell you what, Pete's doing a great job here tonight, and for that team to get a win, it's going to be a real uplifting deal for that whole team. Peter Casalino's a driver. He's really stepped it up quite a bit here the last couple weeks. For him to get a win could be monumental in his career.
Oh, it would be absolutely huge. And once again, it just seems to me like Butch Miller a little suspect on the approach into 3. If somebody gets down alongside him, I don't know whether it's that taking the air off the back of the car a little bit, but he really just sort of parks him a little bit, and Garvey snuck underneath him. Meanwhile, the battle for 7, the Cleaver, number 55, won Sawinski, and Beebe dropping back a little bit. He played the cautions and the strategy well, but honestly, even in practice, it was pretty evident he didn't have a great car this week.
That was a look out the back bumper, the SK Tools number 1 of Kevin Sawinski. And Sawinski now trying to gather in and gain positions here. He knows the laps are winding down. Every position in the top 10 is 5 more points he can click off and gain on Butch Miller if he can catch him at this point. Butch is running 5th, Sawinski the point leader back in 8th.
Well, Garvey up in 4th, and keep in mind with the problems for Robbie Pyle, good opportunity there for Garvey as well. So he's going to be doing everything he can to be wide. Here we go, on board with Sawinski, gets the run, tries to anyway. On 55 Cleaver, can't get it done. Working through 3, now 4. Sawinski drops down low. The Cleaver, that outside line, once again, still pretty strong in terms of getting the exit off the turn. Boy, they just diamond this corner up big time. Here we go. Sawinski now trying to prevent Cleaver from dropping down. They are side by side. Here we go, into 3. Beautiful Panimal on board here, and he's got the nose ahead, but here goes Cleaver once again. Exit of the turn will tell. Cleaver accelerates away. Sawinski still has the nose down there. And no, can't do it. Drops low again. Takes the run, and Cleaver's got just enough in hand right now. Garvey coming up on Sorensen, closing on Yerkovich. We are in a battle here at IRP. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we are in the midst of what ASA is all about. Short track racing at its finest here at IRP. There is your leader, the number 44 of Peter Casalino, and we have had some phenomenal action. And as far as Casalino's concerned, this is what it's all about. As long as Boris stays in front of Garvey, Casalino's getting away to the tune of 2.5 seconds. But look at this now. Look at this. Garvey gets the run, ducks underneath, and makes the move, gets by 29. And Gary, it froze Reed up high. Look whose nose suddenly is going to appear. There's Miller. He gets by as well. Now, Sawinski takes the pass, gets by the 55 of Cleaver, puts him now in the 7th spot. So he's on the prowl as well. But we've also seen moments, Garvey loose, flat tracking it, trying to hang in. And right now, Rob Albright, the guy who's maybe playing the biggest role in this race is Boris Yerkovich.
No question about that. Boris's story tonight almost as amazing as the only guy in front of him, Peter Casalino. This is a brand new race car. The team experienced troubles en route tonight. He missed the first practice session entirely. He got to the back gate. I was standing there. ASA officials had closed the gate to start the second practice session. He practically got on bended knee to let him inside. He only got a few laps of practice. Here he is running second with just 25 laps to go. Only Peter Casalino's story tonight tops that one, guys.
I would agree. As a matter of fact, I was watching out the window at the end of that second practice session from the booth here is when they put the numbers on Boris's car.
It's a brand new race car. I'm sure they plan on being here in Mosey on down I-65 from Chicago to get here last night. The trouble was enough to get him here at 1:30 this afternoon without numbers on that race car, and he's got his hands full now with Garvey.
And that there it is. Look at the margin. Casalino, 3.3 seconds. And I think if Garvey could get by Boris, he'd probably be able to close up just a little bit. And Miller, boy, you talked about it, Gary, about that lower line maybe coming in. It certainly seems to be there for Butch, but the question is it quick? Garvey finally, and that was a slide job pass executed to perfection.
Yes, it was. You know, it's money time, and here comes Mike Garvey and Butch Miller. Pete's out there. He's got a pretty comfortable lead. But watch Mike Garvey and Butch Miller run him down right here.
Well, here's the story. 3.5 seconds at the time that Garvey got by Yurkovich. Here's speeds at the line. 105.2, Cozzolino by about 3/10 quicker than Garvey, but of course they were chasing and working some of that traffic. Sawinski quick, and Lagacy a very, very quick run as well. But now we're going to keep an eye on that margin, the difference between Cozzolino and Garvey. Ooh, Peter, boy, is he driving hard. He knows he's got some of the best in the business that are behind him, and you know they're going to be coming after him. But as a matter of fact, last time by, he expanded it to 3.6 seconds. He saw that wiggle going into the turn. He's dancing it.
Yes, he is. You know, Pete, right now, you know, we're getting close enough to where he can taste that victory, and there's probably a lot of things going through his mind. You know, when you're trying to get your first win, you know, all of a sudden you start feeling tires going down, and you start feeling things happen, and, you know, who knows what might be going on. But right now, Peter Cozzolino's doing one heck of a job in the 44 car.
You think that crew would be a little more excited? I think they're flat whooped. They're happy to see this car out there not having to work on it, because they did a lot of work today.
Oh, they flogged it big time. By the way, keep in mind, in '98, Peter was the Rookie of the Year runner-up in ASA. So, I mean, he's been in the game for a while. How sweet will this be if he finally puts together that win? Incredible. You know what? In the last 2 laps, it went from 3.6 to 3.4. So it's not like Garvey and Miller are just clocking them by 3/4 a lap. They have to work very hard here.
Yeah, Pete has a great race car here, and it's going to be awful tough for Mike and Butch to make up all that ground.
Well, and if they get to him, there's the other story. Look how long it took him to get by Boris, who clearly is not as quick as Peter. So Peter's got a little bit left. This is I think that's the number 6.
The battle for 13.
Yeah.
Kyle Jones is 18 years of age, had raced here before in a late model, so he had a little bit of experience. He almost got lapped earlier in the race, so his second run last week was his debut at Mansfield. He's doing a great job holding off Danny Edwards here.
Edwards and then Porter as well, and Edwards got a feel for him a little bit. He really, I think, he's the guy that lost a lot in that sequence of pit stops and yellows, because he was up in the top 5.
That's one thing you do miss by not racing every race. The pit stops are what may make or break your run, even if you have the fastest car on the racetrack.
What a good story for Kyle Jones, too. Had that, liver ailment that doctors feared for his life at one point. He was hoping to be able to run a little bit earlier in the year. Fortunately, it's all come good for him, and he's shown some good turns of speed here. Edwards right there, and boy, Toby Porter covered by the proverbial blanket there. Edwards certainly appears to be a little bit quicker. We'll watch that battle on the left. Meanwhile, here is the battle. It is 17 and 52. Miller, the margin under 3 seconds. So, Rob, there's no question that right now, Garvey and Miller are closing it up. Oh, we just saw Edwards get into the back of Jones and loosen him up. Jones, a nice save. Now Edwards going to come back after him again. Keep an eye on that margin. It's 2.9 between Cozzolino and Garvey. Here, Edwards again trying to get down low, get underneath Jones. All right, and Toby Porter right in the hunt on this one, Rob.
You know, this Go-Go Motorsports team has struggled all season long. Toby Porter, a late season addition to the team, crashed the last 2 times out. This car, this particular one, hasn't seen action in 3 races. They brought it out here tonight hoping it would work well at the 5/8 mile at IRP. He's giving it a strong run, and how he let out after getting so many rookies to Rookie of the Year honors has to be smiling as we near the end of this race, guys.
Yeah, they've really just had some frustrating problems, including those incidents, and I know it was just driving Toby nuts. He said, I want some good runs. They've given me an opportunity. I want to be there for them, and he's in the top 15 right now. But our leader is in traffic, and this is where this could really take a turn on its head here, because we know that Garvey is absolutely superb in traffic, as is Miller. But, you know, we watched Cozzolino from the start of this race have to work traffic and work through some very fast cars to get to the front.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Peter's probably passed more cars than anyone here tonight. Out leading the race, great job from Peter Cozzolino.
Just ahead, the 86 Janet King Chevy of Ricky Turner coming off of turn number 4. He came in under green and made a pit stop. He was slower on the restart, so if that car's back at full song, it may be a little while for Peter Cozzolino to work around him, as that car looks like it's very racy tonight.
Gary, you were talking earlier about the low line here. Did you just see Butch's line in 3 and 4? I mean, he was on the apron.
You know, Butch had that pit stop. Obviously, they fixed that race car. Butch nailed on Mike Garvey's rear bumper. handling really good right now.
Look at that.
Yeah.
He is way down low, and it is obviously pretty quick at this stage. Garvey definitely, every time his spotters have to be just chatting his ear off about Miller. Now, Butch stays low, trying to unsettle him, take the air just a little bit.
Look how low Mike Garvey now is on the racetrack, though. He's saying, hey, if Butch is making up ground on me, I think I'll take that line if that's the only one that works for him right now. I'm going to make it work for me.
And it's, Kittleson. No. And Cozzolino, this is exactly what he did not want to see.
Travis Kittleson was running 8th again, trying to gain valuable points. His rookie contender, Reed Sorensen, in 5th. He was able to make a solid top 10 run. Now it's gone.
8 laps to go, and we have what should be a very quick caution. We're going to quickly step away and come back, bring you right to the finish. There is your top 5. Welcome back, everybody. We continue under caution. Number 30, Travis Kittleson, sort of had a bit of really a harmless spin in terms of him. Watch what happens here. Loose.
Scrape the back. You heard the crunch there. That was the rear tail at the outside wall.
The guy that it affected, though, is your leader, Peter Cozzolino. Look at the crew's reaction here to this. Pretty self-explanatory. And they are, oh, look at that. Now the nerves are starting to hit. They had themselves a big lead, 2.5 seconds, a number of lap cars in between. That's going to go away. And Gary, you said that maybe Peter Cozzolino and certainly Mike Garvey chasing him, he's being viewed as a different guy now.
I think so. You know, a couple weeks ago, I think Pete had been in a few skirmishes, and myself and Mike Garvey and Kevin Sawinski, we sat down and talked with Peter. And actually, since then, Peter's really had a couple great races. I know Mike Garvey's remembering that the talks that we had with Peter. He's looking at him as a totally different race car driver is what he did probably 4 or 5 races ago. So I look for Mike to race him clean and not do anything that could jeopardize Peter a good finish here.
Well, you got to think that he's also looking at Peter as one fast race car driver right now.
Yes, he is.
And let's talk a little bit. They should be getting those lap cars out of the way, but we've talked about Garvey's car tends to be a little slow coming in. Peter's looks like it's pretty quick right off the bat. We'll see how that plays out. Before we go back to green, let's check in with Rob Albright.
You know, I've talked to both crew chiefs under this caution. Shane Tash, boy, you talk about being cagey. I said, you know, you got a kid out in front of you who's never won a race. How aggressive is Mike going to be? All he did was give me that Chessy Cat grin and said, you just watch. So I went down and I talked to Dick Ader, crew chief for Peter Cozzolino. You know, he's been under a lot of fire this year for driving a car too aggressively. But Dick said, listen, what got him this big lead was driving a smooth, straight line and running his groove. So expect Mike to really have to work to get back around him, guys.
All right, thanks. Let's check in quickly, Jim, with Mike Garvey.
Mike Garvey, Jim Trade on the Speed Channel booth, 5 to go. Will you have enough to catch Cozzolino?
Get these lap cars out of the way. They don't know where the heck they're going. People are just, I don't know, we'll see.
We'll leave it at that. As the lights are on the base
I think he just edited very, very nicely. Well, you know, when they were talking to Mike's crew chief, they've been there before and everything. I got to wonder if when they were talking to Peter's crew chief, if he wasn't chewing fingernails down to the bone. Got to ask you, when you're out there, we've come to you on the radio sometimes late in the race or whatever. Is that distracting you, or do you guys mind doing it?
No, it's no big deal until you're getting ready to go green. When you're getting ready to go green, you want total focus.
And we are just about there on board, and we're green. And they never really did move the lap cars out of the way, so we'll have to follow up on that. That's going to play very strongly into Cozzolino. Let's see, Garvey. Now there's only one car, though, between he and Cozzolino.
What we did see was Kittleson, Plug, and the 6 of Kyle Jones pull down, though.
They moved out of the way.
Down.
Right, but it's the 86. Familiar ride for you, Gary.
Yes, it is.
And it's going to play a role here. Garvey swings way out wide. Got the diamond job here, and looks like he's going to get out of the way and let Mike just sweep by on the outside. Helped him out. 3 laps to go when we come by, or now maybe 4, because we're going to get 5 green in at the end here. But Cozzolino, let's see, what's the margin? We come to the line, 8/10 of a second. 8/10 of a second. There goes Butch around, Turner as well. But once again, you mentioned during the break, it looked to you like even when Garvey's car had run a few laps, it was a little loose.
Not quite as good as what he was earlier in the race. You know, I don't know if the tires hurt him or what, but Mike definitely not as good as what he was earlier in the race.
3 to go this time by, and Garvey took 2/10 off. 2/10, but only 3 to go. And once again, Cozzolino, well, we saw how long it took Garvey and Miller to get by Boris. We'll have to see what happens here. Cozzolino just has to focus. Just drive your run. Ooh, look at this here. Sawinski now coming up, trying to make a move. Use Turner as a pick to get by Sorensen. Didn't work there. Big points implications here. Oh, Garvey is closing. Garvey is closing. It's going to be 2 to go this time by. No. Final lap coming up now. Garvey down low. Out of the turn. Checker to Cozzolino. Right. The official margin less than half a second. Closer than that, 2/10 of a second. The official margin of victory. And look at that reaction. The crew, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in tears just because of the physical effort earlier to get that car here, and then the emotion of getting the win as a result. That, my friends, is a classic study in the word perseverance. Peter Cozzolino and his crew truly earned this. Welcome back, our unofficial top 10, Peter Cozzolino. Big win. Garvey second, Miller third, Boris Jurkovic. Best run of the season. You love to see that. Reed Sorensen, another top 5 for this rookie. Unbelievable. There's the rest of the top 10. Let's get down to Rob Albright with our new winner.
A tearful Christina Cozzolino hands her husband Peter a bottle of water. I'll tell you, this has to be the biggest upset probably in ASA racing history. From the garage 2 hours ago to Victory Circle, Peter Cozzolino wins at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Peter, early in the season, particularly at Toledo, you faced a lot of criticism from your peers. Did you silence them tonight?
Well, like I said, we're letting our driving do the talking. We did the Polish victory lap for my grandfather. He's diabetic out in Connecticut. This race was for him. I got to thank my wife for sticking with me, my father, equally, Terry Props and Jim Props. I couldn't do this without them. I got to thank McDonald's. And A&A Manufacturing, they're all helping me get here.
The drive-through McDonald's car drove through, around, over, and under, whatever it took to get to the front. Peter Cozzolino, the winner tonight here at Indianapolis Raceway Park, guys.
And that's the trophy that they're going to hand to him, and he earned it. Unbelievable finish, and this crowd saw another phenomenal race here at IRP. We'll be right back.
With new Odor Eaters Plus. Odor Eaters Plus is the only insole with podiatric arch support plus protection on demand against odor and wetness.
Jump for joy, new Odor Eaters Plus.
All right, you guys could do the big cleaning. Well, let me see you clean this. Hit it, Carrie!
Need it clean? Call Janet King, the king of clean.
Garden Claw, one of America's favorite garden tools, is good as gold. It adjusts to fit gardeners of all sizes. Garden Claw Gold helps you cultivate, loosen, aerate, and weed without being tough on your back. The claw's steel tines tear through all kinds of soil, even clay, bringing moisture and oxygen to plants' roots. And it turns weeds and leaves into beneficial mulch. Garden Claw Gold makes a great gift.
Available at Menards, Sears Hardware, and participating Ace, True Value, and Do It Best hardware stores.
Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain.
Chance for you to sound off no matter what kind of racing you like. Let's go to line 2. Frank from Jacksonville, Florida. Mitch in Illinois. Get to your point.
Dave's talking motorsports live.
We have great guests tonight. Welcome, please, Nicky Grist. Please welcome Paul Tracy. Steve Matchett will join us for Formula One.
Call in or email.
Old Dave here, your big old self-centered TV windbag.
Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. Friday nights at 11, only on Speed.
Ah, there's nothing like a day at the races. It brings people together when life seems to go by so fast. That's why Meyer, along with these participating vendors, are proud to sponsor the American Speed Association. Because auto racing is all about quality time.
Speed Channel's live coverage of ASA Racing from Indianapolis Raceway Park has been brought to you by The Club. Don't risk it, club it. and by BF Goodrich Tires, the official tires of ASA. Welcome back, everybody. He was so close, but not quite, and he is now with Rob Albright.
Of course, he had to go congratulate tonight's race winner. Rarely do you see this big a smile on a second-place finisher. Mike Garvey, have you ever worked as hard to end up runner-up?
No, we sure haven't, but I'll tell you what, we knew the pit strategy was going to get us one time, and Peter ran a good race, but I just want to thank Jana King. They came on this, their first race with us tonight, and we really wanted to win the race for them. Left-hander chassis, Pro Shocks. Those guys make it happen for us every week, and it's a 1-2-3 finish for left-hander chassis, so we're pretty happy about that.
And he picked up just a few points, guys, as he tries to close on Kevin Sawinski and Butch Miller, guys.
Yeah, it's impressive he's grinning like that because he was second here last year after a hard drive as well. We're going to show you our full field results right now. And as we're going to show you those, I want to turn it over to Gary here now. Gary, when Rob was talking to Peter and he was crawling out of the car, you stood up, bruised arms and all, pumping your fist. This means something to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, as an ASA family, we love to see guys get their first wins here in the series. And for Peter Cozzolino to win here at Indianapolis Raceway Park after the day that he had, it's basically his hometown as far as, this is where he keeps his race car. For him to win here, it's huge. And I guarantee you that just about everybody in those pit area is happy to see Peter Cozzolino in victory lane.
Well, I would agree completely. And another guy who had just a phenomenal race here, particularly late in the going, is with Rob.
You may want to party and celebrate this strong fourth-place finish for Boris Yurkovich, but you need some sleep, young man. Is that correct?
Yeah, we wrecked the car last week pretty bad and had to get it fixed. And so we brought another car here tonight. It wasn't nowhere near getting finished, but me and a couple guys worked a few nights and haven't slept since Thursday night to get the car ready.
Quite a battle there with Mike Garvey to try to hold on to that second spot.
Yeah, I was giving Mike a hard time. It was there at the end, and I know he's a good racer. He wouldn't get into me, but I had to let him go eventually. They're fast.
Boris was in the top 10 early, struggled a bit of late. A great fourth-place finish tonight, gentlemen.
And we have to point out that Boris was not standing on a pit wall. He's that tall, so he folds himself in and out of that car. Cozzolino going to be celebrating. Gary St. Amant, first of all, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you come back and visit us, but not until you've actually decided to quit racing.
That's right. Hopefully it's after we've been in victory lane.
Right. Next race is coming up, Madison International. Gary, you're going to be behind the wheel for that.
We will be at Madison.
Excellent. Great to hear it. Jim Trado, this has been just a great race here at IRP. Madison coming up next.
July 18th, Friday night here on Speed.
Yeah, so don't miss it for Jim Trado, for Gary St. Amant, and for Rob Albright. Pitside, I'm Greg.